start just one more time, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Christopher Matheson. Now, I'm actually a little bit annoyed and kind of stuck now because for the last 2 or 3 months I've actually been planning on basing my entire speech as a musical performance. But as Chris has done one already, you know, I don't want to show him up on his big day. So I'm going to leave it. But I do just want to say for the record, Chris, that my performance was actually going to be completely a cappella.
Meaning without accompaniment. So you're just singing it without any music or anything.
Many of you, or most of you, are probably aware that I am Natalie's brother, Ollie. Hey, I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate this wonderful occasion. I want to thank the bridesmaids, the beautiful bridesmaids, for doing such a wonderful job. Also give my regards for the people that could not be here today. And finally, thank you, Chris, for asking me to be your best man. It's a real honour, and I thank you very much. Now, I remember meeting Chris for the first time. He came over to England to stay, and I can remember one evening we were in the garden, and he was playing his guitar and singing along, and you know, I thought he was a real cool guy, right? And but I'd heard so much about Chris's rock career on the ship that I obviously wanted to see him perform. So a few months later, as it so turned out, a couple on the ship had been so impressed with Chris's band that they actually decided that they wanted to pay for his entire band and all of the equipment to be flown over from Canada to play at their wedding in England. Now, I think when the woman proposed this idea, she had drank nearly an entire bottle of tequila. But it went ahead, and during that time, my dad took it upon himself to become Chris's agent during that time. Now he became Chris's agent. He became quite obsessed with the role, and he actually managed to book Chris a gig at the Boom Boom Club in Sutton. Right, rock on, right? And it was a low-key affair, you know. But it was, of course, the first time that I got to see Chris perform live, which I was very excited about. And I remember when he was playing and he was singing, and me and my mum, we were looking over at Natalie, and you know, she was just watching him in complete and utter awe, you know. And we looked at each other and we smiled, and we were clearly thinking the same thing. Chris's rendition of Paradise City could definitely do with some work. No, I must admit, Chris is a very talented musician. He is a very talented musician. He actually used his musical talents in order to propose to Natalie. I'm sure you've all seen the video. It was actually close to going viral at one point. And he actually did around Natalie's school one afternoon. But that's a story for another day. No. So Chris at this incredibly busy Heathrow airport, you know, got down on one knee and he sang this song and he proposed to Natalie, and it was a lovely moment for two reasons, really. The first being, you know, to be there to see them get engaged, and for Chris to get down on one knee and to see that all live. It was a lovely moment for Natalie, but more importantly for Chris, because in this very busy Heathrow airport, it actually turned out to be the biggest crowd that Chris has ever performed in front of. So, you know, it was a lovely moment for him, really. You know, it was nice.
I hope they get
No, Chris has found an incredible bride in Natalie. one who has been a brilliant sister to me, and I'm so proud of everything you've achieved. And the ceremony today was such a special moment, and it was one that I'll remember forever. It was quite amazing. So, and you look very beautiful this evening, Natalie. Now, I was actually very lucky enough to live with Chris and Natalie at the flat for many months, and me and Natalie were actually quite spoilt, because Chris, as well as being a very successful rock performer, he is also a very good chef. He used to be a chef before he went on to the ship, and he still is very talented. And but the three of you living together, I guess, it's all about compromise, you know. Three of us in such a small space, it's about compromise. And both Chris and Natalie showed incredible compromise when we were living together. Chris, when he was at the flat, he sort of had full control of the television remote, you know, being the oldest, and he always made sure that, you know, he'd select a wide variety of television shows that we'd all enjoy, and not ones that were just for his personal taste. So our evenings would obviously start with Come Dine With Me. And then to mix it up a bit, he'd then put on Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. And after a bit of dinner, you know, to make sure everyone was satisfied, he'd throw a real spanner in the works, and it was of course time for my personal favourite, the Great British Bake Off. So, you know, great compromise. Natalie showed great compromise during the World Cup. Okay, as you can imagine. Right? And one evening, Natalie, she had a friend over for dinner, and by this point I'd watched a lot of the games in my room, and Natalie was cooking dinner for us all, and I didn't want to be in my room, you know, I want to be involved, you know, that evening. So anyway, Chris had decided that he'd offered a wide enough variety of television shows for us for the week. So it was Natalie's turn to decide. So EastEnders was on, right? But Natalie, she wasn't watching it. She was not watching EastEnders. Chris was busy on his laptop, okay? And Natalie was sort of pottering about, and she was in the kitchen, she was cooking dinner. And there was a World Cup game on, and you know, I said to Natalie, I said, you know, can I turn the TV over? No one's watching it. I'd like to watch the football. And she was in the kitchen, and her exact response, and I quote, was, "No, sorry, Oliver. I want to listen to EastEnders from the kitchen." So, incredible compromise from both of them, which was lovely. So thank you so much for that. It's a lovely dinner. Thank you for that, Chris. We are, of course, moving out of the flat and all moving in with Rob and my mum. I know they're very excited for that prospect, all together under one roof. Now, traditionally it is, of course, the best man's role to stand up here and somewhat embarrass the groom on his wedding day. But sort of outside of watching, you know, Come Dine With Me and the Great British Bake Off, I haven't spent all too much time with Chris. Okay, so organising this stag do, I thought that it would give me the opportunity in order to then embarrass Chris tonight. But the rest of the stags will back me up that if I were to recount Chris's evening, it would actually be a very dull affair. He mentioned that we went to the casino. Now, I want you to just try and picture this in your head, okay? So, just 2 hours into the stag do, which you know I spent many weeks organising. You know, just 2 hours into this stag do, about 9:30. here was Chris sitting at the blackjack table, okay, surrounded by many, many busy casino punters who all wanted to play. And just 2 hours in at 9:30, there was Chris on his stag do, with his head in his arms, absolutely fast asleep. He was fast asleep at 9:30. And I'll be the first to tell you, you pretend to be this big rock star, but Chris, that's not very rock and roll, is it? It's not very rock and roll at all. So anyway, we woke Chris up, and we thought a change of scenery would be good for Chris. So we took a brisk walk to the poker room. And what he forgot to mention was when we got to the poker room, and again, I want you to imagine this room. It was much like this, very busy room, full of activity, loads of tables, and there are 100 or so people in there. Me and Rob, we were sort of having a little chat with each other. Next thing we know, we look over and Chris has decided this was the perfect opportunity to have a second nap. Okay? A second nap. So we'd been at the casino for 2 hours, and Chris had been asleep for an hour and a half of it.
Chris, that's embarrassing.
Right? And somehow, Natalie has so kindly given him an allowance for the evening, and he'd somehow in that half an hour he'd lost the lot, right? So he then woke up after his very convenient nap, right? And he joined me at the poker table that I was sitting at. And as he said, he then proceeded to go all in on his first hand after Rob gave him the £50 buy-in and lost the entire lot. So, I guess that is actually pretty rock and roll. So you're off the hook. It was a brilliant evening, and it just illustrates Chris. He's a very unique character. And, he's kind, he's caring, he's very intelligent, and he's very talented. And I guess if I was going to offer one piece of advice for you, Chris, it would be the passion and the drive that I've seen you display with your music and your food and now your photography. If you can take just half of that and use it as a foundation to build a future with Natalie, then you two are going to be absolutely plain sailing. It's true. It's true. That's it now. I've spent so long rehearsing it. I've actually done pretty well. I'm still on page 3, so I don't want to go through all of it. But that's pretty much all I had to say, and I just want to ask you all now to raise your glass,
For the bridesmaids.
and for each and every one of you to join me
Rob, raise your glass.
in a toast to the bride and groom.
Yeah, Johnny stood up, it's all right.
I noticed.
Thank you, and good night.